we've managed to make savings, which are cross-group savings, and also identify multi-million dollar revenue streams just by leveraging best-in-class technology.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Valerium Group CEO, Gary Cottle. Gary, very good to speak with you, and congratulations on your appointment as CEO of Valerium. You're no newcomer to the company, though. Can you tell us a bit about your background and your involvement so far with Valerium?
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for having me. And yeah, where do I start? That's a really good first question. Personally, I was an investment banker for nearly 30 years. I started off, I'm a mathematician by training. I worked for a consultancy firm in the 80s. I probably shouldn't say that, it shows my age. And then I went on to build structured products in Chase Manhattan. I then moved to Barclays. I had a very long career at Barclays, and I was a managing director, and I ran their European risk advisory business for corporates and sovereigns. I moved from Barclays. I half retired, but didn't. I moved and I ran global capital markets for Morgan Stanley for a few years. I was then lucky enough to be asked to do the bailout of RBS, which was I guess a career high, but in very challenging circumstances. So it involved the bailouts of Bear Stearns and Lehman's and RBS in the end. And then after that, I was one of my colleagues, who in fact now is the chairman of a very large crypto firm, asked me to go and head up markets at Nomura. So I was there 6-7 years. I then retired. I had invested in a few SaaS businesses, a few software SaaS businesses. About 3 years ago, I was asked to be an advisor to a group of shareholders, actually, of Valerium. They were mildly unhappy shareholders, and that was to what should the company do going forward. As a consequence of that strategic review, both the chairman and the CEO left the firm, and a new chairman was appointed. So most people know him as either James or Jamie. And then he became the chairman of Valerium. I became a board advisor at that point. And I did that for, I don't know, about a year. And then I was asked and I was, I guess, involved, stroke behind the purchase of the GSX group. So one challenged business, effectively merging, stroke buying another relatively challenged business, but with the right strategic direction. So I helped put that deal together. And then I was a non-exec. So I was a non-exec since that point. And then the company was trundling along to what was a good outcome, which was basically a roll-up. I've been involved in a few of those in the past. That deal didn't happen for a couple of key reasons. Funding's normally the main one, but strategic direction. It was a great deal. It was a ecosystem aggregator of a bunch of businesses that were all in the same space, all incredibly synergistic. What it did do is it gave, in fact, all of us, including Nick Cowan, the former CEO, great exposure to companies like Bluebird, Fidium, DigiShares. So all of those companies that could easily be category winners in their space. They've made tremendous progress. They've revenue. They're above break even, so they're great businesses in their own right. And what we did after what was the DMC deal didn't occur. We asked all of them, would they like to do an ecosystem deal, effectively holding hands with us? So rather than be gobbled up by a fund, actually be partners in a way forward. So that's the very quick, short version of a roller coaster 3 years of challenged environment. And at the same time ending up in what I would call a loosely held consortia with tokenization expertise, real world assets, very, very extensive crypto expertise. So every single one of the businesses, actually including one of the ones I was involved in and am still involved in, which is a crypto advisory business, so we've glued all those together. And we've now just recently agreed way forward with the CEOs of those respective companies, and we've taken strategic shareholdings in all of them with a view that we can increase those, and we have agreed a plan for the next year or so with them.
Gary, why have you now decided to take on the CEO role at Valerium?
I didn't intend to, is the honest answer. One of the companies that we've actually taken a stake in, I had helped put that together and grow that from a business that was an idea to a several £1 million a year business. So Metricus, which is it's a data analytics business, and again, it's probably one of the category winners in its space. And Valerium's actually taken a stake in that business as well. I think probably the honest answer is we had always hoped that with Nick moving on, we would find a CEO with the right technical expertise in the real world assets, tokenization, people like Anna who run Fidium, those type of personalities. We were concerned that because the whole thing happened very, very quickly, that there would be a void. And then I don't want to use the word reluctant because it's incredibly good fun and I'm enjoying it immensely. I agreed to step in to ensure there wasn't a void for the next 6 to 12 months. Without putting up a job advert, if somebody fabulous comes along that's a better CEO, group CEO of those group of companies. I had 30 years in TradFi, as it's now called, for financial services. I ran the electronic markets business for Nomura. So I knew enough to be dangerous in those. But if we find the right person in the next 6 to 12 months for the next part of our journey, I would be delighted to welcome them. But we'll just carry on running as quickly as we can. We have a nice game plan, I think, to get to, say we think all these businesses on a pathway to be $10-20 million, whatever those numbers are for each of those businesses. So that's the roadmap that we've agreed.
Take us through that game plan a little bit, Gary, and maybe touch on what gives Valerium an edge in the DeFi sector.
Well, we're too early to say it's consolidating, but what we're seeing at the moment that all of the people, it's a very emerging, let's call it emerging space. So we're not at ground zero, but if you imagine we're down in the first couple of % of growth, that space is $200-300 trillion of public-private debt. You've got a lot of technology companies coming through. We had focused in on those that weren't into developing viable products, but were actually cash flow positive. They had actually grown. They looked like they could grow by 50 to 100% each year. So we focused in, and we were very lucky that an awful lot of the research work of picking the category winners are done. Our roadmap and our pathway is we'll just carry on. We're looking at 3 or 4 businesses at the moment. So AI is a focus. We've already got some AI competence in our stable. It's not like a Galaxy Digital, but it's a little bit like it. So it's an ecosystem aggregator. We think that in order to be relevant, you've got to have origination. So Valerium Markets, very useful because we were one of the early adopters in a country which is an early adopter. We were lucky enough to be invited to be in the SEC sandbox. So we think as that space develops in those early days, particularly around tokenization and regulatory clarity, we think if you've got businesses that are particularly in the crypto payments, crypto advisory, AI, data analytics, tokenization, and all of those, we've already discovered in under a month that gluing DigiShares, Bluebird, and Fidium together has number one saved us a couple of $1 million between us. But number two, it's given us, the Fidium wallet is better than the wallet that we'd spent 1.5 years developing. So we've managed to make savings, which are cross-group savings, and also identify multi-million-dollar revenue streams just by leveraging best-in-class technology. Like the Bluebird are very difficult to beat. Web2, Web3, full range of developer tools. They've been at it several years. Fidium have been at it several years. So all these businesses, they're not good ideas on a page, and we're not doing the let's go and buy a bunch of Bitcoin and then call ourselves a Bitcoin treasury, and that'll either be a great strategy or less great. We get paid in Bitcoin for our advisory businesses. So ours is very, very much a synergistic ecosystem aggregator. If we have the opportunity to add a few more businesses on over the next year, it's a very fast moving space. But we think the next 2 or 3 years, particularly around tokenization, will be absolutely crucial.
Your immediate priorities now as CEO, Gary?
We've already achieved most of them, actually. So number one, pipeline development, and that's going exceptionally well. Those businesses are running. We've given them some growth capital to allow them to run faster, and that's, I think, where we've probably been most helpful. That was the piece that I think was holding them back. They're all very, very busy, and they're all with clients, with pipeline, with new opportunities. So we had our immediate priorities was let's kind of get the show on the road. And I think let's now benefit from those synergies. Valerium itself has benefited hugely by embracing and being able to use the technology from DigiShares and the technology from Fidium to use as our front ends, so our shop front, as it were. We'll continue to use the learnings that we have through Valeria, our own Valerian markets. We're just getting several other regulatory approvals. So I think it's number one, the next 4 to 8 months, I think you'll probably see another few acquisitions. I think you'll probably see those businesses run a little bit faster as well. But it's a more of the same. We love being in the crypto space. I think particularly because we get paid in crypto, so we don't even need to go and borrow money to put it on our balance sheet. It's very much leveraging what it really is world-class businesses. We're very happy with the we've made 4 or 5 investments. So it's getting the max out of those.
Gary, I hope you'll keep us updated on your progress. Thank you very much for speaking with us today.
No, really appreciate being invited. Thanks, Stephen.
Gary Cottle, the CEO of Valerium.